Good morning, everybody, on what is quite a wild and blustery day outside. Hopefully you're keeping warm and safe, and welcome to our first provider forum of the year. What a year it's been, very different to how we were running them last year, but it's good to see you all. Just obviously you've probably seen the slide before, but just to let you know that this will be recorded, so it will go onto our YouTube channel. So we can sign people to our meetings and obviously what the content that we've got. And so, yeah, please mute your mic if you don't want to be recorded. There is a chat bar if you'd like to use that. And we've got hands up too. Just to let you know, so, you know, thank you for your feedback from other meetings. We've listened to you and we've heard that you'd like it to be more interactive, so that's why we're using Teams today, so we can ask you to, you know, have your cameras on if you'd like to, but certainly really just engage and have we're going to have a Q&A and a kind of round table later in the meeting. We've got John and Helen from our skills board here this morning. So I'm going to kick off by asking them to introduce themselves and get all of you to introduce yourselves. Take a little bit of time, hopefully not too long, but I just thought it'd be really great to share who we've got here at the meeting, and really just start to work collaboratively together at this kind of forum. So Helen, could I ask you to introduce yourself? Good morning.
Morning everyone, I'm Helen Hall. I'm UK Recruitment and Partnerships Director at Oxford University, and as Sally said, I'm a member of the Skills Board and have been for about a year, maybe, I think now. So my role at Oxford Brookes, and I guess the reason that I represent the university on the Skills Board, so I have responsibility for a range of teams that support the recruitment of students to different types of provisions. I have responsibility for university admissions and UK recruitment to traditional degrees, but also for our partnerships with further education colleges and our apprenticeships provision as well. And I also have responsibility for our widening participation work. So really interested in conversations around the role that the university can play in supporting the kind of local skills infrastructure, I guess, and how we support the people of Oxfordshire, and particularly young people and adults looking to return into education to find opportunities there. So looking forward to today. Thanks,
Helen. John, and I have to say, John, bless him, he's a bit of a baptism by fire. He was only just voted onto the board about a week ago, John, wasn't it? So you've had a huge amount of reading to do, but you're very welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself? John, you're on mute. Thank you.
My name's John Pitchforth. I'm the Managing Director of Heritage Skills Academy based over in Bicester. I just joined the Skills Board, so I'm looking forward to how that develops, and I have a mountain of paperwork to read through and catch up, but I've done most of it. Now, my role really is within the board, is to try and help represent the providers, so I'll do my best to do that. My history is I've been involved in providers for trade provision for about 30 years and been in several companies along the way, so hopefully I know a vague bit about what I'm talking about. So hopefully help you in any way I can.
Thanks, John. That's great. So I'm going to ask other people to introduce themselves. Sarah, I think you're the first on my screen, if you'd like to.
Is that me, Sally?
No, sorry, Sarah Collymore. Sarah, you're on mute, I'm afraid.
Sorry. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Collymore. I'm the head of UK Partnerships and Apprenticeships at Oxford Brookes University, so work within Helen Hall's team. So responsible for the partnerships that we have with 7 FE colleges, and also lead on our degree and higher apprenticeship delivery within the university.
Fantastic, thanks Sarah. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Mark Vinger. I'm the CEO of the Engineering Trust Training. So we deliver engineering, manufacturing, maintenance apprenticeships here in Oxfordshire and sort of wider across the south of England.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Sarah Marlowe. There's two Sarahs.
Good morning. So I'm Sarah Marlowe. I'm the Skills Hub Deputy Manager at Oxfordshire, so working beneath Sally to support the Skills Hub team. My main responsibilities are around labour market information and skills policy and strategy. So working mainly at the moment on the skills, local skills report and plan.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, Mel. I can see you. I know you're there behind the scenes.
Hi, yes, I'm Mel Ringer. I'm working the skills team with Sarah and Sally, and I'm running the sort of technical side of things today. So I'm having my first experience of setting up breakout rooms. So wish me luck, everyone.
Thanks, Mel. Good morning, Sally Williams. It's another Sally. We don't get many Sallys around, so that's nice.
So many Sallys today. Hi everyone, thanks for having me here today. I head of strategic partnerships for a private training provider called CSR Scientific Training. We deliver scientific apprenticeships in and around Oxfordshire, preferred supplier for Ox Uni, Ox Nanopore, Oxford Biomedica. So I'm really delighted to be here today, so thank you.
Fantastic, Sally, thank you. Tracy Kingsley, welcome.
Yeah, good morning all. I work with Sally and Sarah and Mel and the team, but I work on the school side, working in partnership with the Careers and Enterprise company, and working with all of our schools in our network, helping our careers leaders build a secure and stable careers programme for their young students from age year 7 all the way through to year 13, and also collaborating with employers and getting those interactions and encounters for all our young people.
Fantastic. And Tracy's doing some great work, by the way, with our SEND schools as well, so that's really, really key. So thank you, Tracy. Erica, good morning.
Morning. My name's Erica. I work within HIT Training and Connect to Care, and we provide hospitality apprenticeships as well as early years and health and social care.
Fantastic. Thank you. Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Riley from Activate Learning. I'm head of project operations. So we run a variety of projects that support anywhere from the age of 16, so those at risk of NEETs, all the way through to 70 to support people back into work. So lots of upskilling and retraining. We've also just taken on some projects that are looking to provide skills from a slightly different area, in that we're supporting our teachers to upskill. So we're looking in the technology area to make sure actually that the curriculum that we're providing is relevant and is that our teachers are up to date and providing the right type of skills and training to our young people.
Fantastic, thanks Rebecca. Adam.
Morning guys, apologies in advance. I am absolutely full of flu, so I probably sound like underwater. So yeah, good morning. My name's Adam Simcox. I'm the operations director at Oxford Applied Training. We're predominantly an apprenticeship training provider focused on leadership, management, IT and digital apprenticeships.
Fantastic. I hope you're feeling okay, Adam, and get
Thank
better
you.
soon. Sophie.
Hi everyone. I'm Sophie Supra from SEO Training. We're a specialist provider. We deliver 13 different digital apprenticeships.
Fantastic. Morning, Sophie.
Morning.
Leah. Sorry, I know this sounds probably a bit like a school register, but I think it helps just knowing who's on the call. Leah?
So my name's Leah Bryan, also from Activate Learning. My role is that I'm a business engagement specialist, so I focus on working with employers and businesses. I've been focusing on T-levels for the past couple of years, which we will be beginning this September. So I've been involved in the pilots and some of those industry placements and building up the message and communication regarding T-levels.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. John Paul.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Paul Allen. I work for Remit Group, private training provider. I'm one of the senior consultants there, and we specialise in IT and digital marketing apprentices.
Fantastic. Thanks, John Paul. Fiona, I don't think we've come to you yet.
Hi, yes, so we're out in force today, clearly. So I too am from Activate Learning, but I'm the Managing Director of Activate Apprenticeships and Business School. So the fully owned company from Activate Learning that looks after all the apprenticeship delivery across the group. So our key sectors that we work in are leadership, engineering, technology and care. We also do deliver, as you would expect, a lot for our community. So the traditional construction, hairdressing, those areas as well.
Fantastic, and as many people from same organisation is welcome. No, there's no problem there. It's delighted, great to have you on board. So thank you for that. James, good morning, James.
Morning, everybody. I'm James Jackson. I'm a UKAA ED9 partner, and I'm contracted to Oxfordshire Advanced Skills OES on the Culham Science site, which is focused on delivering level 3 and 4 apprenticeships in engineering and manufacturing. And my current focus is growing diversity within those apprenticeships and STEM across the Oxfordshire regions.
Fantastic, lovely to see you, James. Gareth.
Morning, I'm Gareth, Head of Sales, representing Impact Futures childcare company in Heros. So we are a private training provider, predominantly working across health and social care, clinical and childcare. We've just launched a new traineeship provision, and we also have an ATA, an apprenticeship training academy.
Fantastic. Sounds like you've got a busy life there behind you as well.
Yes.
Bless you. Eugenie, is that right? If I got your name right?
I'm pretty close. You got about 80% right.
Oh, apologies.
No problem. Thank you. My name is Eugene Lowry. I'm the MD with a private training provider called SkillNet. We operate predominantly in the automotive industry, and we operate UK wide. One of our biggest customers is based in Oxford, which is hence the reason why I thought it would be interesting to join this local group here. So thank you very much for allowing me to do that. And looking forward to getting to know everybody and hopefully developing some relationships from this meeting today.
Thanks, Eugene. Apologies for that. You're very welcome to join us. Ed, have we got you on board?
Yeah, hi guys. My name's Edward Collett. I'm Head of Business Development at Abingdon and Whitney College. I work as part of our Employer Services team. We offer a whole range of different apprenticeships from level 2 through to degree apprenticeship, covering business professional services, engineering, IT, childcare, a whole range of different stuff.
Fantastic, thanks, Ed. Is there anybody that I haven't mentioned? Just want to make sure that we've got everybody on that's had the opportunity to introduce themselves. Hands up or anything? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next slide. I think we're good. I think Sarah's typing, but I think we're good. So to kick off this morning's session, we did talk about the fact that we'd been commissioned by the Department of Education to create a local skills report and plan, which really draws from labour market information. So there's over 70 data sets that we were asked to look at to create what was actually a very prescribed template by the DfE. It's not something that we would normally have produced in that kind of style. And this is very much still in a draft form. It has been submitted to the Department of Education. They've given us some feedback. We are now in the process of making some amendments to fit their requirements. But it's basically one of 36 documents that's going into the DfE, which really tries to give them some kind of mapping as to what are the challenges, not only locally, but obviously across the country with skills. What are the challenges? What are the positives? And how, looking at delivery, I think that's a really key piece. So we're going to share with you some of the kind of key information that we've discovered. Sarah's going to give a presentation on the LMI that she's done a tremendous job on. And then I'm just going to really touch on some of the themes, and obviously please remember that this is still a draft document, and we will share the final document with you Oh, sorry, could you just go back to the previous slide, Sarah? Thank you. We will share the completed document with you. It's going to be up on the website. I think the hard deadline is about the 12th of April. It has shared with our skills board, but at the moment we're still, like I say, just finishing off that draft. So we're going to have a breakout room. I'm going to talk about the white paper because I think it's a significant document that I think is going to influence all of the provision, private and publicly funded. We really need to look at how we can work collaboratively together, and that's why I really think it's a great opportunity for us to discuss and see, you know, what we're looking at across the county and how we can, you know, we'll see what are the challenges, what's working, and certainly John and Helen is really going to be working as part of those breakout rooms. And then we're going to look at the future agenda items and really get your thoughts as to what you'd like to be including in future meetings. So without further ado, Sarah, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about the LMI.
Thank you, Sally. So good morning again, everybody. As Sally said, we've been commissioned by the Department for Education to develop the local skills report and plan. And as part of that, we were provided with a huge set of data, but there are now a set of core indicators which have been prescribed to us by the Department for Education. So I'm going to be running through just some of the data that we found that I thought might be more relevant to this group. And then there'll be an opportunity for discussion at the end. In fact, there's a particular part we would like to discuss with you. So I'll mention that during the presentation, but there will be opportunity then to discuss at the end. So if you could just bear with me, but please pop any questions in the chat. I'm sure Mel will keep an eye on those for me, and Sally. So we're just starting with a quick overview of the Oxfordshire business landscape. So the economy here is founded on a diverse mix of businesses. It's grounded in two main categories. So our cornerstone businesses like education, wholesale and retail, but also we have breakthrough businesses. So those that are at the forefront of global innovation in transformative technologies. So such things as fusion technology, autonomous vehicles, life sciences. So today, 85 years on from the discovery of penicillin by Oxford scientists, Oxfordshire is again at the forefront of human discovery, as I'm sure you're all aware. Our scientists, our businesses and researchers are leading the national and international response to tackle the global pandemic. We've got pioneering approaches to vaccine discovery, diagnostics and treatments. So with one of the highest concentrations of innovation assets in the world, our universities, our science parks, our technology parks. We attract international talent and investment, and we encourage the highest intensity of university spin-outs in the UK. So to find out more about the economic growth aspirations for our area, I've included on the slide here the Oxfordshire Investment Plan link. So that'll take you straight onto the Oxlet website and you'll be able to have a look at the new Oxfordshire Investment Plan. And that translates the ideas of the local industrial strategy into a coherent programme of delivery up to 2030. And it's worth around £4.3 billion. So do take a look at that when you get a chance. We'll send the slides out after, so you'll be able to click on the link direct off the slideshow. So just important to know about the Oxfordshire businesses. Sally mentioned we have a distribution of enterprises by size, which means that 99% are SMEs or small or medium enterprises. But 89% of those are micro-sized businesses, so those with under 10 employees. And organisations classed as large, so those with 250 or more employees, are only represented by around 150 businesses in Oxfordshire. So obviously this can be a bit of a challenge in terms of capacity for engagement in the skills agenda. So worth considering when you're looking at the Department for Education Skills for Job white paper later on, and thinking about that makeup of employers, as there's such a huge focus on employer engagement in that paper. So our businesses are underpinned by a highly skilled workforce. Over half of our population are qualified to degree level or higher, and that's a higher percentage in all districts of Oxfordshire than the national average. So education, health, professional and scientific, technical and retail sectors employ nearly 50% of the Oxfordshire workforce. We have a very tight labour market with generally low unemployment, despite a near threefold claimant count increase as a result of the impact of the pandemic. But we've yet to see what the final impact of that will be once the furlough scheme ends in September. So we're going to look at employment in a bit more detail a bit later. So in Oxfordshire, we've got a contrast of skills shortages, a bit of a dichotomy. So centred on higher value added jobs, there's a skills shortage. And then there's labour shortages centred on lower value added job roles. And job growth has been focused over the last 15 years on knowledge intensive technology, professional, associate professional, technician roles, as well as managerial and senior leadership roles. They all require, or many require, a degree or higher level qualifications. So those with level 4 or above qualifications and or a specialist skill are very much in demand in our area. But in striking contrast, there's been a contraction in employment across all the other major occupational categories. And there's a continuing labour shortage. Sorry guys, I'm afraid I have a lorry going past every few minutes. I live on a new development, so occasionally you're going to hear that green lorry going past. Apologies for that. So as I say, there's a continuing labour shortage for caring and personal services and health and social care occupations. And employers looking for programmers and software development professionals have similar challenges. But the greatest shortage of workers is currently within elementary occupations, and employers say that they're struggling to recruit the right type of worker to those roles. So what I mean by elementary occupations is those that consist of simple or routine tasks. They typically require the use of a handheld tool and some physical effort. So you might think about street vendors, domestic helpers and cleaners, building caretakers, window cleaners, porters, rubbish collectors, that sort of thing. So as well as the challenges that we face there, we've got a set of skills that we found are strongly in demand. So local employers met in some focus groups run by Oxlep and Oxford Artificial Intelligence, and we identified 3 particular sets of cross-cutting enabling skills that will be required by the majority of sectors as we move into economic recovery from the pandemic and sustained growth. So those skills are artificial intelligence and big data, business and digital skills, and soft skills. The digital and IT skills are recognised nationally as in demand. Soft skills, common skills, employability skills, they're also increasingly in demand, and responses to surveys tell us that they're strongly in demand and difficult to talk about, and often the language used around those skills is mixed. And what we want to try and do is develop a common language to support that, so that employers and educators can communicate their skills needs, and then obviously we can match that with supply. So we've got already a well-established ecosystem for Oxfordshire in terms of education. So higher education qualifiers generally align well with the economic specialisms of the area, and they're across a broad range of subjects. Both the local universities play a key role in the area's specialist sectors. Further education funded achievements and apprenticeships are rising to meet labour and skills shortages. Apprenticeship achievements by all age groups increasingly match the area's sector makeup, and that means that 93% of apprentices in Oxfordshire transition into sustained employment. And at higher level 4 or above, courses achievements led to 100% sustained employment. That said, in common with the rest of the country, the number of apprenticeships undertaken has decreased or declined over the last 4 years. Most learners remain in employment, education and training, and most are likely to move into sustained employment, much higher than the national figures. There was higher than average achievements by BAME learners in ICT and science and maths in the last year. So they're meeting the demands of local specialist STEM sectors. And learners who identified themselves as having a learning difficulty and or a disability or a health problem, their highest achievements are generally in well-matched subjects to the area's need. So such things as health and care, retail and commercial enterprise, and science and maths. But we do have some skills supply challenges. So according to the Department for Education prescribed data sets that we've been using for the local skills report and plan, STEM related subjects and other specialist sectors are underrepresented in further education and apprenticeship achievements, given obviously the economic specialisms of the area. So although apprenticeships are progressively matching demand, particularly in shortage service sectors, there's still lots of work to be done. So having discussed the further education achievements data with the Oxfordshire Skills Board recently, it was felt that the further education data that we've been provided through the ESFA and the Department for Education Localism dashboard might not accurately reflect what we actually see or know on the ground as providers. So we're keen to understand from you what your experience is and whether you have other more relevant local evidence or data that you can supply to us that we can use maybe for the November refresh of the report and plan. So just to give you a bit more idea of what the data's telling us on last year's achievements in further education, so this is funded achievements, students are increasingly choosing to take up subjects such as language, literature and culture at much higher proportions than science and IT. So in the last year, science achievements are down by 50%, engineering and manufacturing technologies down by 30%, ICT down by 50%. And the visitor economy has seen a 50% fall in travel and tourism achievements in particular, but many students still choosing sports, leisure and recreation. And despite having 2 leading universities in Oxfordshire, achievements in education and training pathways are very low and have reduced by 40% on the previous year. Over the last 3 years' achievements in accounting and finance, business management, they've all fallen sharply and law achievements are minimal. In construction, engineering and manufacturing, there's a 50% reduction in achievements on the previous year, despite the local growth deals and planned local construction projects. In the last 3 years, building and construction achievements have fallen by over 60%. And all subjects within engineering and manufacturing technologies have fallen by between 40 and 60%. In terms of levels, qualification, the majority, so 83% of further education adult achievements in 2019-20 were a level 2 or lower. So a third of all further education achievements were in the health and public services and care subjects at level 2 and 3, but STEM achievements were minimal. And only 2% of further achievements were at level 4 or above, which obviously employers in the area demand. Only 13% of apprenticeship achievements were at a higher level 4 or above. And there were minimal achievements at this level in science and maths and engineering and IT. So we've seen an underrepresentation in FE, but also in apprenticeship achievements. So in the visitor economy, STEM, ICT, and education and training. So if we could pick up your comments and your thoughts on this in the discussion at the end of this presentation, we'd be really pleased, and that would be very helpful to us to really understand what's going on in Oxfordshire. So critical to Oxfordshire's planning is an ability to train and attract and retain the world-class talent that we need here. So some challenges arising from the data are that we do have an increasingly ageing population, and we want to highlight that our skills ecosystem, although bolstered by its 2 universities, and they release highly skilled graduates into the Oxfordshire talent pool, there's a strong trend for graduate movement to other cities in the southeast, and in particular London, after the first year of graduation and between then and the 5th year of graduation. So Oxfordshire needs to do more work to retain this talent and attract and retain more international and non-local talent. And of course, we haven't yet seen the impacts of the UK leaving the European Union for foreign students and existing workforce retention. So Helen Hall, who's introduced herself earlier on our Oxfordshire Skills Board, is maybe interested in furthering some research around attraction and retention. So that might be something that we might like to discuss in a future meeting. We've got an ongoing labour shortage in the health and social care system, as I mentioned. That's the same as seen nationally. Although many of the lower level further education achievements and the higher level apprenticeships are within this sector, there's still much to do. Employers in general, and particularly from within the breakthrough sectors, report continued skills shortages at level 4 or above. So there's much work to be done in supporting employers, particularly in businesses which spin off from universities, to value and understand those higher level technical and vocational training qualifications alongside the more traditional academic qualification. There are some traditional gender role beliefs still at play in Oxfordshire in further education and apprenticeship achievements. So at further education, there were notably lower achievements in health, public services and social care, teaching and education, arts, media and publishing for males, and their achievements were much higher in construction, engineering and manufacturing technologies and leisure, travel and tourism. But contrastingly, further education female achievements were lower in construction and engineering and manufacturing technologies, although headway does seem to be being made towards relieving those traditional gender role beliefs, as females notably achieve more in ICT and science and maths. Only 44% of apprenticeship achievers aged between 16 and 24 were female, in contrast to 62% in achievers who were aged 24 or above. There were more female achievements in health, public services and care, for 84% females, and business administration and law with 67% females. Apprenticeships in construction and built environment, IT, leisure, travel and tourism were dominated by males, but overall still low given the strong growth plans for the area. And there were markedly more achievements by males, so 89% in engineering and manufacturing and 83% males in ICT. So that provides an overview of some of the analysis which is relevant for this group. What I'm going to do now is just, I mentioned I'd come back to unemployment data, so I'll just provide a short overview of that data as it is at the moment, and start to see how that has an impact on the labour market for us here in Oxfordshire. So In Oxfordshire, from the height in June 2020, government notifications of redundancies fell consistently. So you can see the drop here on this chart. So we had really high notifications of redundancies in Oxfordshire right at the start of the pandemic, but then they fell consistently by about 50% per month between August and October. But then we've seen a rise in December, but that's now showing decline again. And out of 38 LEPs, so these bar charts at the bottom show you by month the LEPs in order. So you can see London had the highest, always across the board, the highest numbers of redundancy notifications. Oxfordshire is marked in yellow. So you can see here that out of all 38 LEP areas across the country, Oxfordshire was 12th highest in August, but since then Oxfordshire has demonstrated resilience and lower impact than many other areas and remained within the lowest quartile since that date. We do need immediate support for the unemployed, as the area has seen a tripling in the claimant and alternative claimant count rate during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's now at 3.9%. And in particular, we have around a third of our unemployed in wholesale and retail, and a further third in accommodation and food services. So Oxfordshire's historically strong sectors, though, have been hit less hard. And so that's, we think, due to turnover decreases not being as drastic here in Oxfordshire than they are nationally. So in January, we saw increases in wholesale and retail and manufacturing, but the largest notification in January was in ICT. But the other most affected areas, surprisingly, are the professional, scientific and technical roles we have here, but also, as seen nationally, within arts, entertainment and recreation and manufacturing. So unemployment claimant counts are now at 16,235 claimants in December. And you can see last year's graph showing the period up to the start of the pandemic, a huge rise at the start of the pandemic, and then it's remained fairly consistent since then, just dropping slightly from that height of 17,000. You can find out more information on all this unemployment data if you want to have a look for yourself. There's some great tools on the Oxfordshire County Council, Oxfordshire Insight website. So if you just click on that link, once you get the slide set, that will take you straight to that and you can explore that much further. So one of the things I found when I was looking through their data was that 52% of claimants are resident between Cherwell and Oxford. And in January 2021, claimant counts fell most in South and West Oxfordshire and Vale of White Horse. So lots of support needed in those areas, in particular of Cherwell and Oxford. And over 50s claimants increased in most areas of the county. So young people and the over 50s have been hit hardest. Importantly, older citizens proportionally more than in previous economic recessions. So there's a visible trend for older workers to be on this sort of rising trajectory. At the moment, 24.3% of claimants are over 50. And specific challenges obviously arise for those older workers, particularly in Oxfordshire. We know that from employer survey responses, local employers value recent training and qualifications over long-term experience. There's also 18.5% of claimants in the 16 to 24 age group. So youth unemployment is highest in Cherwell, and there's been a significant sharp rise in those not in education, employment and training, so the NEET young people across the county. Demographics and welfare changes may also have had an impact here, and generally we know that there are pockets of deprivation that exist across the county, meaning that not all residents can access the skills ecosystem equally. So given the ongoing challenges arising from the pandemic, it's difficult for us to predict the full impact on the labour market. After the ending of the coronavirus job retention scheme, or the furlough scheme, in September, it may be months before we can measure the full impact. So we expect to have a bit more evidence-based understanding for our November refresh of the local skills report and plan, but we shall have to see what's possible to see at that point, with the furlough scheme being extended to September. So hopefully that's provided an update and a brief overview of the sort of data analysis which underpins the local skills report and plan. It's currently awaiting review. We've had a little bit of feedback back from the Department for Education yesterday. We're just awaiting the final parts now over the next couple of days. And as Sally said, that will feed into that final copy of the local skills report and plan, which hopefully we'll be able to bring to the group for discussion in a future meeting. So I'm now going to hand over to Sally to provide you with information on the themes and the strategic priorities developed within the project. Do bear in mind that we're looking for you to discuss the further education achievements, if possible, at the end of Sally's presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Just before I move on, is there any questions for Sarah? James is typing. Is there anything anybody wants to quickly put a hand up just before I move on? Because there's quite a lot of data there. No? Okay. All right, well, just obviously please use the chat if there's anything that you want to talk about, or some questions. We can certainly try and do our best to answer them at the end. So thank you, Sarah. So the skills priorities. So we were given this template by the Department of Education. It's not something we would normally have chosen, with 3 different columns which were cross-cutting skills priorities, COVID-19 recovery and renewal skills priorities, and sector priorities. And from that we've created, onto your right of that, the priorities and supporting rationale, and we've kind of coded it, so CC1 and C19 and SP1, purely because actually our previous skills report back in 2016 to 2020 had got the 5 skills priorities, so we just kind of kept that theme, which we could then reflect further down the document. So I'm just going to go to the next slide because it breaks down of each of those columns. So the cross-cutting priorities, we're looking at really the kind of the headings here for us, which are supporting the reform of vocational and technical skills provision, increasing apprenticeships and T-levels, provide clear pathways for young people and adults, managing Oxfordshire's consistently tight labour market, and graduate promotion and retention. And so you will be able to hear from Sarah's data, actually that's picking up all of the findings that we're seeing from that information. And some of the actions that we're looking at is really for supporting the reform of the vocational technical skills, is, you know, on the back of the white paper is how we can work collectively with yourselves, but with HMG, government, to look at what local skills are needed in Oxfordshire, how we can influence and trying to get better provision against demand regarding, you know, looking at the labour market. And really to work and be that glue between all the different agencies to create a landscape where we're working so we can actually help and help not only employers meet their skills needs, but also work with yourselves to try and identify those employers as well and to reach out to them. We've also got increasing apprenticeships and T-levels. So we've heard from Sarah that we really need to encourage apprenticeships that work for all employers. We're raising the profile of those higher technical level qualifications, particularly for those businesses that don't really understand that. They might have just traditionally used graduates. I think we need to promote the opportunity that progression through the different levels from level 4 onwards is a great opportunity for employers, and there's that they can actually retain their staff for longer, and they tend to be more loyal if they're an apprentice. We'll continue on our great work that we've been doing through the Oxford Apprenticeship Awards, the Apprenticeship Ambassador Scheme, the OA Hour that Mel leads on, which is every Thursday. And we're also working, we did a T-level webinar with some of our providers, which I think are on the call today, really trying to promote the new T-levels to employers, and we'll continue that work. We've also got our Skills for Business programme, which we are hoping to extend. The Skills for Business programme, it actually works with SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprises, to help identify their skills needs. It gives them a skills needs analysis and also signposts them to yourselves as providers to upskill current staff, or it could be an apprenticeship, it could be a T-level, so really linking in with all of the offers that you've got across the county. And that is actually worth about £800 of consultancy fee. So that's a great opportunity, and it really has shown that actually we've created over 30 apprenticeships through this programme. And we'll also be working on the development of kind of the employer-led standard model, which again has been highlighted in the white paper. The clear pathways for young people and adults, that is continuing on with our Careers and Enterprise Company partnership. We work with over 50 secondary schools. We've got our SEND schools and pupil referral unit. We work trying to support and help schools with their careers guidance and advice. One of the things that we have heard and seen that actually that more career leaders and advisors need to have more time off curriculum, and that's something that we've created through our social contract, which was a spin-off from the local industrial strategy, and we put a funding proposal forward to say that we would like to get career leaders to have ring-fence time so they can devote more than what can be 2 hours a week on careers to really help young people understand those career pathways. But we would like to encourage and help more career leaders and advisors to have training. We would also want to promote, again, going back onto the white paper, the new lifetime skills guarantee, which is going to enable people to access funding, just very similar to going to do a degree, to have funding for training in those vocational courses through the lifelong loan entitlement, and really to enable and support that DFE initiative. Managing Oxfordshire's consistently tight labour market, just like Sarah again talked about, we think that even with COVID, we're going to go back to a tight labour market in 12 months' time once COVID's finished. It is quite loose at the moment, but we think the labour market is going to retract back to how it was. So how do we get people that are furthest from the workforce back into employment? So we're looking at retaining the talent. How do we keep young people? How do we keep grads within the county? We've got our community employment plans that work with large infrastructure projects. How can we help and support them to bring on recruitment opportunities or training opportunities, apprenticeships, T-levels, those furthest from the workforce, into achieving kind of working actually with them in getting that training so they're not impacted by that large infrastructure projects. We've got the Work and Health Programme, which is JETS, and those are furthest from the workforce, and the Job Centre Plus and the National Career Service, which we've been working with to promote their virtual careers and jobs fairs. So that will be continuing. The graduate promotion and retention, we're looking at potentially, and this is something we could talk about together, is could we create an Oxfordshire jobs campaign where we can promote the opportunities that are within the county through our higher education and further education colleagues, and that would be something that I think would be of benefit, and really also to raise awareness of industrial placements, promote industrial placements and local employment opportunities to our grads or undergraduates, to try and make them aware of the opportunities and to try and get those businesses to look at their talent pipeline and start to really promote and give those opportunities to young people to really keep that talent within the county. Thank you, Sarah. Next slide. Just conscious of time, so we're just going to go through, rattle through the other two, but we've got, so the COVID recovery and renewal skills priorities, how we can support with the labour skills shortages, support employers to navigate the skills landscape. We know that there's significant shortages, skills shortages in the health and social care. And we're looking at how we can support mobility improvements for workers, particularly those that are in rural areas, which we know they struggle to get to their place of work or to work to visit people at home. And is there an opportunity also for a future leaders skills programme in that health and social care sector to encourage and understand progression within that sector? We're also looking, going back to skills for business, how we can maximise apprenticeship and T-level opportunities as well. Young people, eats and neats. We know that significant numbers of young people are becoming eat and neat. So we have got, as you're aware, Kickstart, which has been run through Job Centre Plus. There is Back on Track as well, but are there other alternatives? Because actually it's quite limited. We found out there's one recent initiative which is being run by Thames Valley Police, and we're looking for more if there are there. Please let us know. Also with our Careers and Enterprise Company funding, we had a grant which has been run by Advisor for the Find Your Future programme, which works with schools for those young people that are at risk of being NEET, to try and keep them in education or signpost them to training courses. And that programme kicked off in January and it's running till the end of this academic year. Support individuals most impacted by COVID-19. So we've seen increased numbers of job seekers in the 16 to 24 category and over 50s, and that will also work with Kickstart. So we've got JETS as well. We've got skill support for the unemployed, which Rebecca and her team Activate run. We're also looking at how we can support digital training and equipment, because we know that there are significant numbers of people that are experiencing digital poverty and also are digitally excluded. And so we're looking at how we can work through Sophia and their larger locations with our provider agencies. So that could be the Oxfordshire Learning Network, and again Activate, as to how we can offer some digital training to those people. Thank you. Next slide, please. So sector priorities. We've got meeting specialist employer demand. We know that there's a key level of need at the FE level in STEM. Education subjects, construction, leisure, travel and tourism and manufacturing, and how we can help with that. Enabling skills to meet employer needs. We really need to try and identify those soft skills which are valued by employers and agree those mutual terms, because I think there is confusion between young people and employers what each other means and how we can try and navigate that and provide some clarity. and explore and address barriers to higher level apprenticeships which are perceived by SME employers. I kind of highlighted that on a previous slide, but sometimes we have those spin-offs of micro employers which might not be aware of the benefits of an apprenticeship, and they might just think actually the graduate route is their only option. So we really want to try and encourage and to identify any challenges that they might perceive and how we can remove them. This is diversity inclusion. We really need to get more groups, BAME groups, into ways to promote STEM, digital, IT and coding careers. And not just BAME, but women, we need to get more numbers. We've seen Sarah's highlighted it's a very traditional route, and we need to get more diversity and inclusion into these sectors. And then last couple of priorities: managing Oxfordshire's consistently tight labour market. We need to raise digital capability. Those health and social care labour shortages as well, what we can do with that. So digital skills for life, and also digital skills for the unemployed and health and social care recovery plan. And finally, construction sector, we know that there's going to be shortages. I think it's something like 700,000, because increased numbers of people are actually retiring from that sector, and we need young people to go on, and actually job seekers to go into construction at all levels. This could be filled in part by community employment plans, but obviously we really need to look at how that can be supported more broadly. So next slide, please, Sarah. So next steps, like we've mentioned, we have had the feedback from the DFE team regarding the report. Sarah and I completing the final document. Then it will be signed off by our skills board, and it will be uploaded, and this is a hard deadline by the Department of Education for the 12th of April, but we can send it to you. Just make sure that you've got it when that's ready, and that will be kind of a published document, will be on the website there in at least by April. And then we, for our sins, have actually got to the skills board have suggested that we should actually rework this document to make it much more accessible, which will be our kind of more formalised Oxfordshire local skills strategy for 21 to 24. It's really going to take the same elements, but that should be hopefully drafted by August. And then going back to the local skills plan, we will have to do a refresh of this in November. So there's a lot there. Hopefully that's helped. The November refresh, I think there's some questions here for you, is does the data reflect the skills landscape that you're seeing as a provider, either in a further or higher education? What are your perceptions and thoughts around the priorities and themes? And most importantly, how can we collaborate together as a network to deliver for Oxfordshire? Does anybody want to kick off any of those discussions? But so I'd like to put your cameras on, that'd be really helpful. Anybody want to kick us off?
Don't mind adding to the conversation. Just in regards to health and social care, I mean, there's obviously continuing ongoing need there, but what we found, particularly as a result of the pandemic, is that, depending on the sector, so NHS as an example, where people have been redeployed, the need for the apprenticeships are there probably more so now than ever, but it's the infrastructure. They haven't got the infrastructure to support it because people have been redeployed, so they can't support as they usually would. And also there's some conflicting initiatives going on which are impacting on people going down the apprenticeship route. So there'll be funding from another department that is driving a 10,000 healthcare support worker recruitment drive, but not down the apprenticeship route. It's just traditionally coming into the to the sector as a healthcare support worker as opposed to an apprentice healthcare support worker, and there's some conflict there between bringing in apprentices through the levy and through that other initiative. So yeah, in terms of the NHS, they certainly don't help themselves from that perspective, but yeah, we don't, talking to Health Education England, we don't envisage that really picking up until later in the year in terms of that apprenticeship need and the activity around apprenticeships. Because for the last year, there's been very little going on from new apprentice recruitment in that particular sector.
Thanks, Gareth. Is there anybody that'd like to say anything from that? Any other comment?
I think from our end, just to replicate that within the IT and digital sector, the demand is there, but the ability to take on an actual apprentice is what has caused a lot of the stumbling blocks, because the apprentice deserves support, they need support, and with everyone working remotely and not being able to provide that hand holding that they need, that's been the biggest sticking point really. So I think that's a common concern across all of the different sectors out there.
Sorry, Fiona.
Go on, Rebecca.
Coming off the back of that, we're hoping with the work that we're doing with Kickstart that actually organisations are going to use Kickstart as a try before they buy, and there's lots of discussion around hopefully being able to convert some of those 6-month Kickstart placements into apprenticeships at the end of those programmes for the right candidates. So hopefully that will kickstart the apprenticeship scheme.
I was going to just a slightly different tack actually, and it's more about supporting the employers. So it's following on from that last comment. The incentive payment is one thing, but I wonder if there's something we can do that's quite creative, with our employers to support them with those apprentices. As providers, of course, we do that individually, but collaboratively and with the LEP support, is there something locally that we can? And I need to think out loud to think about what that might be, but the money is great, but it is only a small pot of money. It's not going to be a significant have a significant impact into an employer who is allowing the apprentice to spend one of their 5 days a week learning, whereas what they could do is take on somebody who is maybe slightly older, able to work full time, and they won't perhaps need that level of support that we all know that we need to provide to apprentices. So in a roundabout what sort of way, I'm saying we really welcome Rishi's prioritising of apprenticeships, but is there something more creative we can do perhaps in the local area to support employers with apprentices? And I don't know the answer. I need to think about it.
Just heard Kickstart mention more a question for the other providers, but have you had any feedback from employers that there's probably at the moment with Kickstart, apprenticeships, traineeships, there's a little bit too much choice and some confusion over what the best route is for them to go down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's really difficult for people to be able to see the wood for the trees. There's so many different things that they could do. There's so many different things coming at them, which because they don't live and breathe it like we do, it's not obvious to them which is the most appropriate route. And then probably what will happen is they'll get contacted by someone who's interested specifically in talking to them about one thing, and that's how people end up getting funneled down an apprenticeship or Kickstart or traineeship, because the individual provider that they're talking to is interested in, well, I've got a cohort of trainees starting, so I've got a cohort of apprentices starting. So employers will almost get talked in something depending on who they're speaking to and what that person's agenda is.
Yeah. And I think
just from me, Kickstart for us, we tried to be a gateway, then because we thought we'd have lots of our companies that would want Kickstart, and actually not many of our companies did want Kickstart. We're engineering manufacturing sector only, but in the end, some of them looked at it for office admin support staff, but none that would transfer into apprenticeships from our point of view, because again, we're precision engineering and that sort of thing, and Kickstart's just not appropriate for that type of person. So for us, that isn't going to be the case, that we're going to get a load of Kickstart people that then transfer into apprenticeships in 6 months' time or whatever it is that we can work with. The business might have them, but they're not going to be in an apprenticeship that we deliver. From our point of view, so that didn't really help us much from a pre-apprenticeship into apprenticeship point of view. I think Kickstart generally, just has been a complete nightmare anyway. But anyway, from DWP point of view. But there we go. That's just my thoughts.
I mean, I think in certain industries that have been really, badly affected, hospitality and stuff, I think it will be one of the key things for them to be able to get back on track, and start to operate and reduce their costs. So I think it would be really, a really key in some areas. But, when, Sally and Sarah are talking about the kind of high level skills that we need, the stuff that we're talking about now and the stuff that we're doing now isn't going to transpire into skilled, qualified people for 3, 4, 5 years. So the skills gaps we've got now is because obviously we weren't doing the right stuff 5 years ago. The labour market information we've got now tells us what skills gap there are, but anything we do now isn't going to feed into that gap until 3, 4, 5 years down the line when those people go through the sausage machine.
I must admit we've been quite surprised. We've had a number of apprenticeships open for probably the end of last year and the beginning of this year. We've been quite surprised actually of the lack of applicants actually in a lot of them are in Oxfordshire, but or applicants that are just far too qualified to even consider doing an apprenticeship. So again, I think back to the presentation originally at the start of this, I think that squeeze on the market is already apparent in Oxfordshire because we're not feeling that massive unemployment that then translates into people for apprenticeships to start sort of ASAP really. We've really noticed that hasn't been the case for us, but yeah.
Sorry, Fiona. Go on, you go first this time.
Thank you. I mean, I heard a lot of agendas that we need to think through, ranging not only, we're talking about the skills gaps now, but we also need to start thinking about diversity and, all of the numbers. And Sarah, it would be great to see some of those numbers written down because I don't think they were in your presentation. So if you could share that, I think it's really quite sobering. And it almost feels like we probably need a bit of a working group to look at each of those areas. How are we going to do it? Which training providers are going to maybe take the lead with the support from the other training providers? This is just a suggestion. And also, different sectors have different things. So echoing Ed's point just now about hospitality, it may be there's a group of providers who want to look at Kickstart and work with my colleagues in Activate Learning on Kickstart, whereas I might want to work with Mark on something to do with engineering. So let's do it so that we're actually, I don't know, that feels like it would be a good approach for me because otherwise we're all trying to tackle everything and there's plenty of us, so let's try and sort of share the workload and the ideas.
I think that would be great. I'm conscious of time, so thank you for your comments. I just want us to have some time to talk about the white paper because it is such a crucial document. It's quite revolutionary in what it's proposing. It's good news for some, it's not necessarily for others, and I really would like to get your thoughts on it because just having that information, if we do have any conversations with government, it's good to kind of hear your thoughts on the ground so we can go, actually we've talked with two providers, is this what we're doing, and really know from you what you need from us. That is really key. I'm not going to go through it. I'm presuming you're aware of it. You've read. We gave a bit of a briefing, a document I sent out. Sarah, do you want to go to the next slide, please? And certainly, I think the conversation that we've had about our information on the local skills plan probably will feed into this anyway. So I've literally just put in the points from the executive summary here, and this is the only slide that I've included about the white paper. It's really, like I say earlier at the start of the presentation, it's putting the employers at the heart of the system. But I think the challenge that I can see is how that is achieved, given that we have got majoritively, 99% of employers in Oxfordshire are SMEs, majoritively micro, so that's under 9 employees or less. How can we reach out to them and get them get them involved? Investing in higher level technical qualifications, making sure that people can access training and learning flexibly, reforming funding and accountability providers, and supporting excellent teaching and further education. And that's just the executive summary there. So I think it would be great to have an open discussion, and we're going to set you off into breakout rooms, and John and Helen are going to be chairing those breakout rooms just to kind of start having that discussion, and please just, you know, if you carry on that discussion that we've just had. Sarah, do you want to go to the next slide? Okay, so what do you, just thinking, what do you like in the white paper? What are the potential challenges, and how can we work together collaboratively? And I think the idea of a working group, that would be great, because possibly all of that could be rolled into the working groups to realise the aspirations of the white paper for Oxfordshire. So Helen and John and Sarah are going to be leading those those sessions, and we'll be writing notes and coming back. So should we come back to the breakout rooms? Do we go into breakout rooms now, and then we'll come back? Welcome back, everybody. Sounds like there's been some really interesting conversations and discussion, and apologies, I do think we're going to run over probably by 5 or 10 minutes. I hope that's okay, but I wanted to make sure that we've got the opportunity to really catch up and to share some of the discussion. So Sarah, I can see you on screen. If you'd like to share some of the feedback that you've had from
we had some really interesting discussions. Thank you, Sally. Sally Williams has kindly volunteered to make notes and to speak on our behalf. So Sally, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. So just very quickly, I'm conscious of time, to sum up what we discussed. James Jackson, UK AEA, is that right? Talked very much about diversity and inclusion and the whole BAME community, especially women in BAME, and how the white paper could hopefully make some conscious change in that space. And then Sarah from Oxford Brookes talked a lot about confusion, i.e. that parents maybe don't know that these routes are viable. SMEs particularly have no idea about Levy or Levy Transfer and how they could tap into that. So, you know, bearing in mind it's what, 2017 the Levy were introduced, and there are still lots of confusion around that space, but I'll leave it for there because I'm sure some other people want to speak.
Shall I go?
John, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, again, a range of conversations, but collaboration is important. That was brought up, and we've got to look at ways in which we can do it. It's not clear how that will happen, but we need to do it. There's still a big split between the ITPs and the other deliverers for apprenticeships, because again, the funding is all going one way and not another. So there's a lot of lack of access to some of the initiatives that are being promoted. Levy Transfer, we tried to use Levy Transfer for a year within our organisation, and we didn't do one successful transfer. It's a very, very complex system, and most SMEs can't get their heads around it. So it's that as an option for apprenticeships is a tricky one. I think they'll have to get around. There are quite a lot of increases in opportunities, but they tend to be at the higher level, 4 and above, rather than the 2s and 3s. So there's a discrepancy there, which we have to address, because we are not getting the starts or the opportunities that we need. So that's a basic summary.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Sally, for earlier. So thank you for your feedback. Helen?
Yeah, happy to come in. Really interesting discussion. I mean, things we would like, we like the multi-year funding and the ability to potentially be more strategic and more effective, and potentially also more accountable for the funding that's received. There were interesting discussion around Chamber of Commerce and potentially engaging with them being an effective way of bringing together businesses, but without the individual interests that we all have as providers. And support for the increased support for recruitment and training of teaching. Some of the I wonders or the challenges we identified, particularly around that training of teaching, is the ongoing challenge of the cost of living in Oxfordshire, and whether the types of measures described in the skills paper are sufficient, given the other kind of challenges we have about attracting talent to the area. There were questions around the business centres and how different they are from what we already do, and whether they're just a kind of rebadging of what we already do, and whether they would actually bring any kind of benefits. And then I think we were united around the, I wonder if rather than us all reapplying to the register, the ESFA could use some of their existing levers to look at judging quality, and that felt like an additional hurdle being put on providers at a time when resources are really stretched. I think in terms of the collaborative working, I think there was a kind of common theme that there are opportunities for us to think about how we work collectively, to engage with stakeholders where we know that their resources are really stretched. So how realistic is it that businesses will be able to engage in the way set out in the white paper during the recovery period? And is there something that we can do both with businesses but also around schools and colleges, and we know that that's the case for teachers and careers advisors as well, to kind of speak with a more united voice, and how do we do that without losing the kind of independent strengths and angles that each individual provider brings. So I think there was a lot of appetite for further conversation about that.
Thank you so much. I think that's been really helpful. I will go away, I think, probably look at all of the comments that we've got, and if people are happy to nominate themselves for a kind of a group to kind of look at this and how we can move forwards, I would be really grateful. Appreciate that we're all kind of stretched, but I think this is really key to move this forward. And obviously we have got 3 meetings a year, and I would like to try and progress this conversation further. If people are up for kind of subcommittee, that would be really helpful. Just conscious of time, so next slide please. Next slide again. So next meetings we've got 29th of June and the 3rd of November. So please put those dates in your diary. Thanks for your feedback, Ed and Leah. Definitely, if you'd like to be part of that kind of breakout group, I'd probably call us, that would be great. Next slide. Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, I mean, literally meetings closed. What we're going to do, just to give you a heads up, I think we're going to change the title of the group to the Provider Network. I think it sounds a little bit more collaboratively, so it's a bit, so watch out for emails as the Provider Network moving forwards. And really, I think, unless I've missed anything, Mel or Sarah, just happy to gone just 4 minutes over, so that's not too bad, but really want to say thank you so much to John and Helen for running those sessions for us and joining us, but really to thank you. And I see Sally, you've got your hand up. Is that a hereditary hand or something you'd like to say before we finish? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I really hope that this morning's session's been of help. We will certainly send out the link for the local skills report when it's done, and contact those that have registered their interest on the chat to work with you forward, moving forwards on a kind of subgroup, and we'll keep you updated obviously about what that would look like and what the outcomes are for our next meeting. So brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to see you all, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.